What's up, everybody? Welcome to a summer edition of the Boston Globe Sports Report podcast. I am Ben Volin, typically an NFL football writer, but for the last month have been moonlighting as a football writer as the World Cup has overtaken Gillette Stadium and the entire New England and, frankly, the entire United States as we've been hosting the World Cup here for the first time since 1994. So much World Cup content I want to get to today. So I have a great guest, the perfect guy to bring in. Amin Touri is, I think, officially an online producer, a web producer, but he's really just a Swiss Army knife for the Boston Globe Sports Department. You do everything for us, very heavily involved with the web production of bostonglobe.com, and you happen to be an avid soccer fan. You've been sitting next to me for all 7 matches at Gillette Stadium. Amin, you root for who's your soccer team that you normally root for?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm an Arsenal fan since I was 8 or 10 years old, and then my family's from Algeria. So for this World Cup, that's been my team. They didn't last very long, but most of the time, yeah, I'm a big Arsenal fan. Have been since I was a little kid.
Well, and a good year for you as they just won the Champions League.
That's Premier League.
Excuse me,
Premier League.
Not the champ. See,
No.
already showing the lack of soccer knowledge here. You are the expert. I would say I'm a casual, but that's not even the right word to use. I don't follow soccer, but I know the sport. I played it as a kid. I refereed it, in the suburban level. And when I am traveling in England, like, oh, cool, let's go see a soccer match. But I do not follow it at all. So that's where you come in as the expert. I do know that your shirt, Hearts of Pine, that's the Portland team, right? Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
So I do know that much. But you are the expert here. So you have an article today as our launching off point. It's on. Today is Monday, July 13th. We're towards the end of the tournament now. We've got just the semifinals, third place match, and the finals to go. The Gillette Stadium experience is done with. I'm sure they've uncovered the tarps and ripped off the natural grass and gotten it ready for the Patriots. You have an article this morning, July 13th, on bostonglobe.com. You expected to be let down by this tournament. You were not. You said it exceeded your expectations. Are we talking about the soccer? Are we talking about the environment? What exceeded your expectations?
I think the environment and how smoothly the whole thing ran. I think in the lead up to it, I had some concerns that this amazing event was going to be overshadowed by the political backdrop, or there was kind of a lot. The run up to this World Cup in Boston was pretty fraught as far as the preparations, the infrastructures, how they were going to get people to and from Foxborough. You and I know very well from covering the Patriots that it's very difficult to get 60,000 people in there when most of those people go there every week, let alone when people are coming from another country. And so I think I was a little bit worried that this World Cup was going to be kind of plagued by scandal, and there was still a little bit, but not so much around here, and that the whole thing was going to be a little bit of a mess that kind of just showed to the world kind of that things aren't going so great around here. But I think pretty much from the moment the Scottish fans arrived before they played their first game, the whole thing has been really, really cool. The environment's been wonderful. We'll get to the games, I'm sure. We didn't exactly have the most dramatic games, particularly in the groups. But the fans were unbelievable. We talk so much about the Scottish fans over the last couple of weeks. The Norwegians were great. We got the Moroccans and the French twice, and they made a lot of noise in the stands. The Paraguayans were amazing when they pulled that upset over Germany. So yeah, I think there's been so much more joy and love. The fans have loved each other. The fans have been partying in the concourse together before games. The fan fests downtown have been really cool. The whole thing is just it's been a good time to be in Boston over the last month.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's been a total smashing success for Boston, for the country, for the communities that decided to host these matches. The logistics were not as bad as I thought. Yeah. After the first couple matches, getting in and out of Gillette was not that big of a deal. Yeah. The trains seemed to, although I did hear stories unconfirmed of people abandoning cars on Route 1 for this last France-Morocco match. Yeah? That traffic was awful. But again, who knows? But logistics seemed to be okay, and like everyone pulled it off, you know. So I thought that was definitely impressive. It is mostly about the fans, no question. And it was really the happy to be here countries, your Ghanas and Iraqs and, you know, even Norway and Scotland, obviously. I thought like the most boring fan bases were like France, Germany, and England. You know, like England was all business. Like there was, they packed the stadium, and there was very little atmosphere from the English.
The English are kind of known for they have a great time before the game, and then the game starts, and they're a little worried, they're a little nervous, and that like really comes through. And it didn't help that the game was terrible. It was comfortably the worst game that we had here. But they're not the type to just. I think the Paraguayans could have lost 7-0, and they still would have been banging those drums and clapping those cymbals. And the English, like they had expectations, and so when the action on the pitch wasn't going so well, they're not really the type to give them a lift from the crowd. But yeah, like no, I agree with you. It was the countries that. Even the ones that had some expectations of being competitive, like I think Scotland and Norway were happy to be here because they haven't been here in 28 years, but they had expectations of being competitive, especially Norway absolutely expected to get out of that group. I don't think they thought they were going to make it to the quarterfinals, and Scotland knew they were up against it with Brazil and Morocco, but they really wanted to get through. But they were still very happy that they were doing this for the first time. Like half those fans weren't alive the last time Norway and Scotland rather were at a World Cup, and so they brought so much fun to the city, to Foxborough, to the stadium. So it was really, really cool.
So that being said, it's almost like we give FIFA credit for the fans bringing the atmosphere. Let's talk about, you know, what FIFA actually controls, and that's kind of the performance and the matches on the pitch, as they say. I kind of feel like I watched these matches with rose-colored glasses. You're watching Scotland versus Haiti, and the atmosphere is awesome, and you're like, wow, I'm at a World Cup. Now that some time has passed and we've seen the tournament unfold, I feel like Gillette did not get the best group of matches. Like it felt a little minor league. Like Scotland against Haiti, like with all due respect, 2 of the 12 teams that didn't make it through. Norway versus Iraq. You know, Holland scored. That was great. Iraq showed a little bit of fight that day. You know, England, Ghana, a 0-0 draw. I feel like the tournament now, it encourages teams to really just play defense and try to get that tie, get that 4th point, you know. Morocco, Scotland, you know, there was a goal in the 2nd minute, then there wasn't much. So it felt in hindsight, you know, and then the one match that was supposed to bring it, France, Norway, man, what a dud that was, because Norway, you know, became like the 4th team ever to bench 10 starters in a match, including even the goalie they benched. So, you know, I just feel like for the prices that were being paid to see these matches and for how it was hyped, the action on the field felt a little minor league at times.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I did a ranking of the 5 group games, and I actually put the France-Norway game as the best of the group stage games at Gillette, because I think if you could look past the fact that Norway sat all their starters, I actually think the quality of the game was the best one that we had. Like, I think if you went in and you just had never heard of Erling Haaland anyway, you would have thought that was like a pretty good game. Had Norway scored that penalty 2 minutes into the second half, it was 3-2, and things could have gotten very interesting. But the quality of that game was decent. But yeah, as far as the matchups went, we did okay. I think the reality of a 48-team World Cup is you're always going to get you're going to get a few games that are really good, but not that many. Like there were I think the only real marquee matchups of the entire group stage were France-Norway, which obviously didn't deliver, and Brazil-Morocco on the first match day, I think, of Group C. Otherwise, like, you're going to get a lot of, and I am an Algerian, you're going to get some Algeria against Jordan in San Francisco, and that's what it's going to be.
There's no more group of death anymore.
Yeah, it's like the fact that we even got a group as difficult as Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland in one group was kind of surprising. But yeah, like, England-Ghana was such a dud and one of the worst games of the World Cup. I think looking back on Scotland-Haiti, which finished 1-0 to Scotland, like we enjoyed it because of the fans. That was not a good game. Like in hindsight, I think The Athletic ranked it as the worst game of the group stage. And I don't think that's crazy. Like there was like 4 shots on goal in the entire game. There was not a lot of quality in that game. And I think both the Scottish and Haitian fans really carried the day. But yeah, And we didn't get any big drama. We didn't get any late winners. We didn't get any late equalizers. We had a 0-0. We had 2 1-0s with early goals in the second minute for Morocco and the 25th for Scotland. And we got 2 4-1s that were mostly out of hand in the first half. I think, Norway was up 2-1 at halftime, and I think France was up 3-1 at halftime. In those games, you kind of knew where they were going. So as far as the group stage games on the pitch, not the most dramatic that we got here.
No, and this was the first tournament that was expanded to 48 teams, and as you said, there really in the group stage were not many premier matchups. Now they're talking about expanding it to 64 teams, so you're not going to get any quality in this group stage, and these are the matches that people are spending the most money on. That's been one of my takeaways, is that if I were a fan going to the World Cup, I'd spend my money on a round of 32 or a round of 16 match, because those are quality knockout matches, and the ticket price, the ticket market, dropped significantly for both of those. I couldn't agree more with your take about the group stage, and then I feel like it all got saved by that Germany-Paraguay match, mostly by Paraguay. Like, that match had everything. It had that first goal by Paraguay was sick on that header. I went back and watched it yesterday. We had a saved penalty kick, I believe, or maybe that was a different one. But there was a controversy. Germany had a big controversial goal taken off. Then it went to PKs. And then I'll get to this later. But so anyway, the Germany-Paraguay match, and frankly, even the France-Morocco one, once I think Morocco was missing their top striker.
Yeah.
That one didn't really deliver either. France kind of dominated that one from the start.
No, I think that, Morocco had a number of injuries. So Ismail Saibari, their starting striker, was out. Naif Aguerd, who's their best defender, wasn't playing. They had to play Nusayr Mazraoui, who's a decent player. He's an okay enough right back. He is not a center back that you want playing against Kylian Mbappe. He's the one that gave away the penalty. I think it was a bit of a dive. But in any case, Morocco were completely overmatched in that game, which I didn't really expect. I think they'd been really good in possession at this World Cup, but they pressed France high for like 5 minutes, and then they realized they couldn't hang, and they kind of got pinned in their own box for the rest of the game. I think they had one touch it might have been one, it might have been 3, but very few touches in the France box in the first half, and it was very one-sided. I think that France are unbelievable and just have so much talent. I think it's going to be hard for anyone but the very top teams to really hang with them, unless you're going to do what Paraguay did and just try and kick them for 90 minutes and hope to get away with it. But yeah, the Germany-Paraguay game, I think, is the one we will look back as the best game that we saw in terms of drama. We were in the press box, like, pulling our hair out watching the penalty shootout, and we have no vested interest in any of it, but we just couldn't believe it. Germany skies a couple over the bar. Paraguay misses 2 chances to put it away with their 4th and 5th penalty kicks. It was like, that game really did have everything, including, and I think we might talk about this later, VAR controversy, which was really the only one that we had in 7 games at Gillette. It was pretty kind of free of VAR nonsense. It was kind of like that goal, the Mbappe penalty taking 5 minutes to sort out for no reason. But that game was really something special, and it was probably the biggest upset of the World Cup, and so at least we got to see that around.
Absolutely. So yeah, that match was definitely worth the price of admission. All right, now we're gonna move on to like more general World Cup talk. I'm gonna give some takes here, and you're gonna tell me either I'm brilliant or I'm an idiot, or maybe somewhere in between. Okay, so these are takeaways of just like an American sports fan who is helicoptering in and watching the World Cup. One thing that drives me crazy is, for so many infractions, the punishment does not fit the crime. I forget which match I'm watching. A player comes sliding in, and he plays the ball first. He actually touches the ball first, but his follow-through on his cleat happens to spike the other player in the shin. They go to instant replay. They determine this is a foul, even though, as I said, he played the ball first. They give him a red card. You now have to leave the game. You're banned from this game. You're banned from the next game, and your team has to play man down for 40 minutes. How is that a justifiable punishment? And that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Like, it's so often where minor goals are so hard to come by in the World Cup. But if you get tripped in this box, we're going to give you a penalty kick and basically like hand you a goal. There's so many things where the punishment does not fit the crime, and it drives me nuts.
I think that soccer, so you're a football guy, you cover the Patriots for us here at the Globe. Soccer has a very limited number of outcomes that referees can apply, where in football you have 5-yard penalties and 10 yards and 15 yards and spot of the foul. And in soccer it's a foul or it's not, it's a yellow, it's a red, or it's nothing. And I think the lack of gray areas there can be frustrating. I think the incident you're talking about is when Jarrell Quansah got sent off for England against Mexico.
Yeah, there you go.
That was a weird one. What I will tell you is, as somebody that watches a lot of soccer, I watched one replay and went, he's getting sent off for that. Because, yes, he does touch the ball, but it was very reckless and it was very out of control. And that's sort of the part of the law that they were applying in that situation. In a lot of cases, you can get away with a lot if you manage to play the ball. But that was a situation where he had the ball at his feet and had no reason to go diving in like that. And by diving in and coming over the top of the ball, if he catches his cleat on somebody's shin when their foot is planted, he could really hurt somebody. And everybody sort of knows that about going in studs high and off the ground. But I get your broader point. I understand what you're saying.
These are soccer plays. These are in the flow, the natural flow of the game, and these are split second decisions that these guys are making. Yeah. And they're getting sent off. And their team is now having to be on the penalty kill for 40 minutes. Yeah. Like it's wild.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend refereeing or VAR in general, but there's a lot of these. Like I think my big pet peeve is like handball. Is somebody will just sort of kick a ball in someone's general direction, and if they have their hand here because they need it to balance and it hits their arm, they get a penalty kick, which is like an 80% chance of a goal for the crime of having arms and needing them to balance. And so, no, in some ways I agree with you. I think that this specific incident sometimes, like I can see, again, that Jarrell Quansah one for England, I watched that and said, that's going to be a red card. He's getting sent off. And maybe I'm just, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and I'm just...
Well, the culture and you understand the context of what's going to be called.
Yeah.
Yes, and I come at it totally as an outsider, but... In our sports, we differentiate between things that happen in a natural course of the game versus things that are like wildly reckless, in football, like, a forearm shiver to a guy's head. Like that is an obvious, ejectable penalty. But if a lot of times there's leeway given if something is happening where the guy is just honestly trying to make a play.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is a lot to rehash, but the Fuller and Balogun red card against Bosnia was one of those where it was sort of like he had to put his foot somewhere, and it's not even a tackle, and it looks bad, and the contact is not good, but there is zero intent in that. And he gets a red card, has to miss the rest of the game, was supposed to miss the next one. Some other things happened, and he ended up playing.
One guy stepped in, apparently.
Yeah, one guy stepped in, which is a bit of a concern as far as precedent setting goes. But yeah, I think one of the issues that soccer has in its refereeing is that it can be very all or nothing, and the punishments are not always proportional. But it does just kind of have a limited way of punishing things in a way that, let's say, American football does not, because it has just kind of a larger range of possible punishments.
Yeah.
So I don't hate that.
I hate the man down thing. Like Switzerland, they took a dive and they got a yellow card, and by rule it had to be a red card. And now, I mean, it puts Switzerland in an impossible spot. Like kick the guy out, but let them have their full 11 men, Like,
yeah, don't get a red card.
I guess. I mean, there's just no gray area ever.
Yeah.
All right. So I really don't like that the punishment doesn't fit the crime. Here's take number 2.
Sure.
Erling Haaland proves that the USA can be great at soccer because Erling Haaland is a beast. He is 6'5", 240 pounds, right? Like I call him Soccer Gronk. He's an NFL tight end, and when there's a header in the box, he's getting it. Like he's out jumping everyone, and he just imposes his physical dominance and is one of the best in the world. So if we just took those athletes and instead trained them as kids to be soccer players, we could be dominant, but those athletes play basketball and they play football and baseball. Like Aaron Judge is not growing up as a soccer player.
Yeah.
LeBron, but if Erling Haaland proves that if we sent our athletes into soccer, we could dominate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the trouble is, like, you know, if the answer is just produce the best striker on the planet, like, that is kind of a difficult thing to do. But the broader point about, like, yes, you and I don't have enough time to fix, you know, American soccer development on this podcast. But yeah, one of the big problems is that a lot of the best athletes are not turning to soccer. And if you are 6'5" and 220 pounds and you can jump like a salmon, like, you are probably playing basketball in the end. And listen, that's not always the case. You know, the U.S. has got some decent athletes. We wrote about Miles Robinson from Arlington, who was a fantastic athlete and an unbelievable basketball player, and he turned to soccer. But I think at the end of the day, like, the difficulties of the infrastructure, I mean, these kids are like, Erling Haaland would have been playing for a club that has a top professional team when he was like 6 or 7 years old. And it's very hard to implement that structure here and to have those kids where they think they're on that path to soccer from the time that they're, you know, 5, 6, and 7 years old. But it does seem strange that we in so many other sports can produce the best athletes on the planet, and we can't find 11 guys who can channel that into soccer. So yeah, I think it's a tough one because it's also like you do need to still develop that player, and Haaland is physically unbelievable, but he's also just the best finisher on planet Earth, and there's nobody who is more of a killer in front of goal than Erling Haaland, and that is something that is incredibly rare. That he's the kind of striker that comes along every 20 years anywhere, and to have that happen here is still going to be unlikely, even though we produce these amazing athletes.
Yeah, well, I think what you said is the key, is that from the age of 6 or 7, he's in, you know, I don't know how hardcore the training is at that age, but he's getting the best training, whereas, you know, at 6 and 7 years old, soccer for us is purely a participation sport, and that's fine. Like that, it's great as that. But I feel like kids they don't see the path to success. It's obvious with basketball, with football. Like there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Yeah. Soccer is still kind of seen as like, oh, maybe it can get you into college or whatever. Yeah. But like I feel like if people knew, like, hey, you can go to Europe and develop and look how much money some of these top end guys are making, maybe some of these 6'6" athletes would start funneling more into soccer. I just don't. The way we treat soccer is just more as a participation sport.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the fact I'm an Arsenal fan, right? And one of Arsenal's best players is Bukayo Saka, who's playing for England now. And sometimes I tell people that Bukayo Saka's been at Arsenal since he was 6. And they don't really understand what I mean. And it's like he has been in the academy at Arsenal Football Club since he was 6 years old. And there's a lot of players like that. And that just simply would not happen. When I was 6 years old, I was playing little kickers in Watertown youth soccer and had no idea that and like, yes, they still treat them as kids, but they're being brought along in a pipeline that doesn't really exist here until kids are 8 and 10 and 12 as they're starting to join academies and stuff. And I think at some point, like, bridging that gap is going to be really, really hard.
There have been a couple things about soccer culture that I have found mind-boggling.
Sure.
Mostly around, one was in the Germany-Paraguay match here in Foxborough where they reached the 6th round of PKs and couldn't find someone to take it. I mean, all of that just blows my mind that, A, the coach didn't have a batting order set before the match, and B, that guys were allowed to say no, that you're allowed to, and that C, that many guys at that stage didn't want that moment. So that blew me away. And then, okay, tell me if I'm crazy. Probably. In the Norway-England match the other day, Erling Haaland is subbed out at the beginning of the second overtime for extra time, whatever. I understand he's gone 105 minutes, and it's a lot of running, and it's been a long day. Are you kidding me? It's 15 minutes left in the World Cup, and your top striker is being subbed out, and no one even really questions the move, and he's like laughing about it after, or like laughing after the game, and no one's like, what is going on here? Like, how are people okay with Erling Haaland coming out of the match?
Yeah, so as far as the penalties go, I mean, I think taking a penalty there are very few things in sports that match the pressure of a penalty shootout. And part of the problem with setting an order beforehand is, number one, you don't know who's going to be in the game at that point. And you can still kind of set the rankings of all 26 and just pick the first 11 that are still on the field. But also, like, some guys might be exhausted. Some guys might just be like they have it in that moment or they don't. And like you do not want the guys that are scared. That's the big thing. And like, so a lot of times it is like, there's a couple guys that you know are going to take penalties. Kai Havertz was always going to take one for Germany. Like, he takes a lot of them for Arsenal. He's very good at it. He missed, but he's generally very good at them. And so sometimes like it is kind of a heat of the moment thing. But yeah, this kind of happens every time a team goes out on a penalty shootout, especially at club level. I've noticed where it's like sometimes senior players backed out of taking a penalty. And I don't know that it's accepted. I think they get a lot of criticism for that. But also, like, I can tell you who missed the decisive penalty for England to go out of the World Cup in 1990. And nobody wants to be that person. Nobody wants to be Chris Waddle, who missed a penalty against Argentina in 1990, and people still talk about it 36 years later. So they do catch a lot of flack one way or the other. It's a bit of a lose-lose. But I do think that coaches could just sort of set the lineup, and you're going to have to deal with that. As far as Haaland getting subbed out of that Norway game, yeah, he had played 105 minutes, and it was like the feels like temperature was like 100 degrees in Miami. But me personally, I'm of the opinion that if there's one person on the planet that you want on the pitch when you need a goal, it's Erling Haaland.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm like, yeah, like me personally, Jorgen Strand Larsen's a half decent player. I will take like Erling Haaland out on his feet over sticking Strand Larsen in there, your third choice striker, and hoping for the best. So I didn't like it, but we don't know what sort of shape that he was in, but I think that was crazy. I agree with you.
Okay, so I'm not totally crazy there. And you've seen the videos, you've watched him play. He's not at a dead sprint for 105 minutes.
No.
I mean, there is a lot of like active recovery, I believe, is what athletes call it. Isn't 50% of Haaland still better, than
Probably.
100%? So, and then you don't have him, if you do get back in the match, you don't have him for PKs, right?
Yeah.
So that is like, but then like it's not a talking point. Like everyone seems to be okay with it. Like, oh yeah, he's tired. He comes out of the match. Like that's bananas to me.
I think the commentators, as I recall, were a little bit flummoxed by it, but they didn't necessarily linger on it. But this is also one of the things about soccer where because you can't be subbed in and out, it's like if you're going to take him off, you have to take him off, and you can't bring him back on, and that's what it's going to be. But I think probably like I don't think Erling Haaland wanted to come off. Like I don't think he ever wants to come off. If he came off, I think he must have told them like I don't have anything left at this point. And like yeah, he was chasing shadows for a long time in that game because they just didn't have a lot of the ball, especially in the first half. So I'm not that surprised that he might have just kind of been cooked at that point.
It's kind of like a wide receiver who runs 65 routes in a game and gets the ball like 4 times.
Yeah,
like, you got to be patient. All right, let's finish this up with some quicker hitter stuff here. As we record this, it's, as I said, Monday, July 13th. The semis start tomorrow. Bastille Day for France. That should be awesome. Your thoughts on this being the first World Cup ever with seeds 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the semis?
It's fun. It's like sort of kind of the thing it depends on how you look at it, but the kind of the thing you hope for because you just get these incredible matchups that when you look at the beginning, but it almost never happens. And this has been a World Cup somewhat devoid of huge upsets in the knockout round aside from that Paraguay-Germany game. I think some people will look at it from the lens of, well, all the big teams got all the big calls, and Argentina's getting a lot of that flack, and I think Norway had some real gripes in that England game, but I don't know if it's the most fun thing because you want to have a dark horse, you want to have a Croatia, you want to have a Morocco Cinderella in the semifinals, but me personally, I love that we're getting England-Argentina has more history to it than almost any other fixture in the sport. And France-Spain is just a really, really good game. So we get 2 of the games that you would have really wanted to see before this World Cup started, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, as much fun as it is to have a Cinderella, I mean, the way this sorted out is tremendous. I mean, France-Spain, England-Argentina, the history, the star power, these are going to be just top-notch soccer matches that are going to be worth the price of whatever crazy amount that people are paying to get in. Cape Verde was a good story. Some of the smaller nations, it can be fun. And I mean, if Cape Verde makes a run, I mean, it'd be pretty hard not to get behind them. That said, this seems to be a trend now. Like March Madness is all chalk these days. And maybe by expanding the tournament, it just makes it because, like, I mean, who has Argentina even faced now to even get this far?
I mean, their run to the semis has been a pretty easy group with Algeria, Austria, and Jordan, and then they've gotten Cape Verde, Switzerland, and Egypt.
Yeah.
Which it's not a lot of hard hitters. You know what I mean? Egypt's a decent team, so is Switzerland. Cape Verde defended for their lives and put in a really impressive performance, but they're not playing Morocco or Belgium or Spain or England earlier in the tournament like they might have in the past.
Team USA getting the gift with Balogun. Unprecedented in soccer.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few precedents you can find. I think Jairzinho, who's a big Brazilian star in the 60s, I think got a reprieve kind of like this, where he had maybe struck an opponent in the face and they looked at it. And they also rescinded, like Cristiano Ronaldo got a red card in, I think, the second to last Portugal qualifying match for throwing an elbow, which should be a 3-game suspension. And then they suspended the suspension a little bit like the Balogun thing. It's not good. And I think, like,
well, sorry to interrupt. So the latest reporting on Monday is that FIFA has an 18-person committee that oversees and reviews these decisions. But in this case, it was just one guy, the head of the committee, who is from the UAE or something. So instead of the entire committee, one guy is the one who made this decision.
Yeah, not a good place to be. And whether you think it was a red card or not, I, in real time, did not think it was a red card. It is absolutely not a good precedent for world leaders, regardless of which one, to be stepping in to interfere with sport of any kind. I think it does. I think FIFA are extraordinarily lucky that the U.S. lost that game anyway, because I think it would have cast a real shadow on the integrity of the tournament if they'd moved on. It's a really, really bad precedent to set, and not something that should ever happen at a World Cup or pretty much at any other sporting event.
So I saw a lot of nations and their soccer federations kind of spoke out and are, I don't know if they're lodging official complaints or whatever, but any chance that Infantino can be in trouble through all this?
I mean, he's very unpopular, but he also knows where the bodies are buried. And I think that getting rid of him is going to be very difficult. I think there's some rumblings in UEFA, which is the sort of the European Federation, about wanting to, run a candidate against him. And I forget if it's 2027 or 2028. These guys are hard to get rid of. Sepp Blatter was in the job for, 15 years, and Joao Havelange was in the job for 20 or 30 before that. And those guys were also facing a lot of allegations of corruption and whatever for decades, and we still couldn't get rid of them for a long time. So no, I think Infantino is going to be in charge for a little while here. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Team USA for 3 weeks, all unicorns and rainbows and ice cream. They sweep their group play. No, they lost actually, but they advanced. They won their group. They crushed Bosnia. Could they have embarrassed themselves anymore with the way they went out?
I'm Algerian, right? And the way that Algeria played in a 2-0 loss to Switzerland, I thought was like the worst performance of the groups or the knockout stage. Until that U.S. game, it was horrible. And there are definitely thousands and thousands of people across this country who are huge U.S. soccer fans in a way that I'm not really, and I don't think that you are, but that are really big into U.S. soccer. And they got their friends to come over and watch that game. But the vibes are so good. This team can really play. Just to put in a horrendous performance. They were awful on the ball, especially in the first half. And every goal they gave away, the first one, everybody freezes and is just ball watching. Tim Ream gets dunked on the second goal in a way that was just kind of hard to watch a 38-year-old man kind of take a beating like that. And then obviously the third goal where Matt Freese just kind of, his brain freezes a little bit when he came out of goal and tried to clear and then didn't and then tried and then didn't. And it's sort of one, you can lose a game, and Belgium are a decent team with a good bit of talent. Not as much as everyone seems to think, but a decent team with a good bit of talent. They gave away that game 4 different times, and it was painful to watch. And it's hard for me to kind of remember a more embarrassing U.S. soccer defeat, probably since that one to Trinidad in 2018 that saw them miss the World Cup. But at a big tournament like this, it's been a long time. Listen, you go out 2-0 to the Netherlands or whatever, fine. But they just threw that game away over and over and over. It was a rough watch.
I do think the World Cup being here is going to be a boon for soccer, but not Team USA's performance.
I don't think so.
No chance is any kid inspired by how Christian Pulisic and the boys handled themselves in that match. All right, finally, Argentina. I get why everyone hates them. They get every call. They get the easiest path. What's the deal? Why is Argentina the favorite country here? Why is this whole tournament skewed towards Argentina?
I think everybody needs to take a deep breath with the Argentina thing a little bit. I think they're turning into like the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Kansas City Chiefs, and that everybody is slightly losing the ability to just kind of look at it completely rationally. Do I think they've gotten a few calls? Yes. And I do think that Infantino, and I don't know that this is like large-scale corruption, I do think that Infantino loves the stars. I mean, Ronaldo, no one else gets that suspended other than Ronaldo. Seems like we're doing some favors for Messi here. There's a couple calls that, like, Messi was very lucky to get away with a red card against Algeria in the first game. I'd like to say that I'm unbiased. But other than that, most of it has been like the two calls in the Egypt game, the one that led to Egypt's second goal getting disallowed, and then the non-call on Argentina's second or third goal. Both of those, I look back on, I'm like, those were correct. And I don't like VAR. I don't want to defend VAR. And I don't think you should go that far back to like get rid of goals. There's so few in soccer. I didn't have a problem with either of those calls. I do think that Egypt had some gripes about not getting any of the 50-50 calls throughout the game. But then even the one in the Switzerland game, I've watched a lot of soccer in my life. That dive from Braylen Bolo, I don't want to be hyperbolic, is one of the 5 most shameless dives I've seen in my life. And so for them to rescind the yellow card for Leandro Paredes, who didn't do anything, and give a second yellow to Braylen Bolo, who fully deserved every ounce of that second yellow card, I think that, like, I truly think that if that call happens in the round of 32 game between Switzerland and Algeria, everyone looks at it and goes, that's a horrendous dive, and they got it right. But the more that Argentina are getting sort of weird calls in their favor that you have to squint a little bit to kind of see the reasoning, I understand. I went home yesterday, and my mom, the first thing she said to me is, what's going on with Argentina? And then my dad got home 20 minutes later. He goes, what's going on with Argentina? I'm like, I can't escape this. So listen, I think that they and some of the other big countries have benefited a little bit too much from some big calls, but a lot of them I think have been defensible for the most part.
Argentina has become the Patriots of the dynasty. They get all the calls. Yeah. Everyone suspects them of cheating, of the league favoring them and giving them all the breaks. No one wants to credit their success. Yeah. Messi is Tom Brady. I mean, I see so many parallels between Argentina and the dynasty era Patriots. And you know what? No one cares because the Patriots have all the titles and all the Lombardi trophies.
Could you imagine if the tuck rule happened now with social media era? You know what I mean? Like it's people would absolutely lose their minds.
I mean, we kind of had that with the grazing of the hair in the in the match, you know, with the soccer ball. So and this isn't even controversial. I'm ready to blow up VAR and send it into the sun. I hate instant replay in sports, and I hate the way soccer uses it. I hate that a guy could have the tip of his finger offsides and they call the goal back. So just blow it all up. All right, great stuff, Amin. As we head on the way out here, give me your prediction. Who's winning this thing?
France. I think it's not a fun choice. It's not an exciting choice. They have so much talent. It is absolutely silly. I don't think anybody's going to be able to stop them.
France over
England. That's
my prediction too. Thought it was going to be a little original, not taking Argentina, but I guess I'm not. There should be tremendous matches. But yeah, to me, to my untrained eye, France looks like the most complete team out here, just loaded at all 3 levels. So, Amin Touri, thank you so much for this tremendous World Cup talk. It's been a pleasure sitting next to you in the press box, learning about this wonderful sport and this event. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I'm Ben Volin. Check us out later for more Boston Globe Sports Report Podcast Edition.